Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today TV. I'm Sakshi Batra. Well, there's a big update coming right in the Adani Hindenburg case. The expert committee's interim report on the case has been made public. The 173-page interim committee report has been made public now by the Supreme Court. Joining in with me, my colleague Anisha Mathur, who's been tracking this case very closely at the court, and we also have with us Kranti Batini from Wealth Mill Securities to help us understand what is the implication for the Adani Group after the findings of this interim committee's report that has been made public, and what should be investor strategy now on the Adani Group stocks. Most of the Adani Group stocks, however, right after this report has been made public, are actually up in trade as well. Anisha, first I'll come to you to understand what are the key findings. Tell us the key takeaways from this report.
Well, Sakshi, this report, I must reiterate for our viewers that this is an interim report, and multiple times in the report, the committee itself has said that the investigation by the SEBI is ongoing, and therefore they do not want to make any group. 7 jurisdictions are under investigation by the SEBI. There are multiple instances.
All right, Anisha, I think there is some technical glitch. We are not able to hear you very clearly. We'll fix that technical glitch to come back to you. Meanwhile, I'll just highlight for all our viewers the key highlights that we have got from the report is that the committee has gone into various aspects of the market volatility, investor confidence, regulatory framework issues, investor awareness, and the investigation into the Adani Group companies. This is all that they have covered in this 173-page interim report. Now, the committee report really says that SEBI has told the committee, this expert committee, that the transactions may be technically compliant with the letter of the law, and it may be difficult to prove a violation in the court of law, but the spirit and purpose of the law may have been violated. Now, important takeaways again include that in case of the Adani Group stocks, the committee says 849 alerts were generated by the system and were considered by the stock exchanges, resulting in 4 reports to SEBI and 2 well prior to the Hindenburg report and 2 after the January 24, 2023 when the report was made public. Yes, Anisha, please carry on. Which are the key takeaways that you found? Yes.
Am I audible now? Well, Sakshi,
yes.
As we were discussing, there have been several points made in this report, but as I repeat, it is an interim report. What the committee has, however, said is that at this stage, they cannot say whether there was any market manipulation by the Adani Group or not. At this stage, they cannot say whether there was any violation of the investment norms or not. However, what they have said is that the investigations have been ongoing since 2020, that there have been multiple instances where the stock exchanges have flagged certain transactions under the AMS norms that have been created by the SEBI. Also, what is important to note is that at the same time, the committee has also raised the point that there is need for a coherent regulatory structure as well as an implementation structure, because the law itself, the regulations themselves have been changed multiple times in the last few years, which has created a situation where companies may have changed the way that they are working, changed their investment patterns, etc. To keep up, on one hand, keep up with the regulations, and on the other hand, to sort of go, manipulate the regulations themselves. But that is where this the committee has said that there is need for a coherent structure, there is need for a coherent investigation and implementation as well, and they have also suggested that there could be some sort of a interagency cooperation when it comes to investigating issues like this. As far as the Adani Group itself is concerned, they have said several things. One, of course, being that there are transactions which are under investigation. There are at least 13 entities which have been flagged by the SEBI which are under investigation. But at this stage, and I will repeat this phrase that the committees also used multiple times, that at this stage there is no clear evidence. At this stage, the SEBI is still looking into the issue. And what is perhaps the most important comment that has been made is that it seems to be a chicken and egg situation for the SEBI itself, because prima facie they have not been able to find anything at this stage, but they have said that there
Right.
by the company of the way the regulatory framework has said. So they have said that at this stage we cannot conclusively say that there was any regulatory failure by the SEBI. At this stage we cannot conclusively say anything, but these are the issues that have been flagged by, there are several issues that have been flagged by the committee, and which is a very important point, because they've said that there is no pattern of artificial trading or wash trading that has been
Okay.
found with Adani stocks. There is no pattern as found so far of abusive trading, but suspicious alerts were flagged, suspicious transactions are under investigation, and because this is such a vast investigation, it will take some time. So at the same time, the committee flagging certain issues, flagging structural reforms that are needed in our regulatory regulated framework, including the creation of a coherent framework, including more investor confidence building measures, including more investor awareness programs that this committee
Correct.
has said. Uh,
Anisha, one more important point that I can read as part of the key takeaways that have been shared with us is that SEBI has also found that some entities have taken short positions prior to the publication of the Hindenburg report and have profited from squaring off their positions after price crashed upon publication of the report. Now, what does this really state? That before the Hindenburg report really got public, Hindenburg itself had talked about that they had taken short positions because they felt that there were a lot of transactions that may have been misleading. So now, what do you make of this point? What has been talked about here?
Well, see, Sakshi, I'm just going to quote what the committee has itself has said, that the trading pattern is suspicious because of the build-up of short positions by these entities in Adani scripts prior to the Hindenburg report. Of which are these companies? That these are 6 entities, including 4 FPIs, outside of the 12 FPIs already under investigation,
Okay.
one corporate body and one individual. These are entities that have already been flagged by the SEBI, by this committee. But the committee itself is saying that the detailed investigation into this is ongoing, and at this stage, they cannot say anything when it comes to any sort of conclusion. So if the committee itself cannot come to a conclusion, we as reporters who are analyzing this report, we have been watching this. At this stage, it is very clear that the committee is trying to take a very safe line when it comes to its observations. They are
Correct.
saying that yes, there was something, but that something is at this moment being investigated, and at this stage we do not want to say something. Now what is
Got it.
further, what is the committee says? That there is no evident pattern of manipulative contribution to price rise that can be attributed to any single entity or group of connected entities,
Yes.
which means that there was something has happened, there was price rise of Adani Enterprises Limited. There was a rise in price, but there is no evident pattern, and they are still looking into it. So clearly, at this stage, it seems to be a relief for the Adani Group, as there is no clear evidence of any wrongdoing. But it is very clear that the SEBI and the committee are both keeping a sharp eye on what exactly happened and where, and we should. Since the SEBI has said that they are investigating and they will file a report by September, we should find out by August what the further developments in the investigation actually
So
have
what
been.
happens on
Back to you.
July 11 now, Anisha? Because the last time I spoke to you, you did mention that the next hearing will now take place on July 11. So now that the interim report committee findings are already out, until then what happens next, and will Supreme Court make their observations on the findings of this report on July 11?
Well, that is exactly what the July 11 hearing has been scheduled for. The Supreme Court bench just yesterday, when this matter had come up, had said that we need time to consider the committee report. We will consider the committee report, and whatever next has to be done will be considered on July 11th. However, you must also remember that the Supreme Court had agreed to give time till August 14 to the government, to the SEBI,
Yeah.
to further its investigation, because the SEBI has very clearly said almost what this committee has said, that there are several transactions involved, there are several entities involved, and there are several jurisdictions involved. And that is going to be a hard battle for the SEBI also, because even the committee has pointed out that they had tried to get international financial institutions, etc., to join them in their deliberations. But these international institutions have declined and said that some of them may have a financial transactions or a relationship with the Adani group, or some of them just do not want to get into a policy framework problem. And with 7 countries or seven jurisdictions involved in the investigation, it remains to be seen how the SEBI investigation is going to go on. Because remember, SEBI in its affidavit had said that they've approached the International Organization of Regulators, which is the IOSOC, and they are awaiting certain responses, they're awaiting certain data. So considering the sheer vastness of these allegations, the transactions, now even in this report, if you see 849 transactions which had been automatically flagged by the stock exchange regulators, right? And this is before and after 2020. This is before and after the Hindenburg report. 4 reports have gone to the SEBI from the stock market regulators themselves.
Right.
So clearly, there are things that had been flagged. Clearly, there are things that are under investigation. But at this moment, as far as the politics, policy, and people of the country are concerned, at this moment, nothing clear has been found by anybody who's been investigating. Several suspicions are there. But even the committee is saying that the regulations have been changed so many times that at this stage we do not know if the company has actually violated a regulation, or it has only found a way around an existing regulation before the regulation could be changed.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Anisha, for giving us all that update. Kranti, your first thoughts. You've heard, Anisha, the key findings from the interim report that have come about. 2 and 3 very, very important points. One, which I saw that SEBI has stated that it did not find any evidence of wash trades where connected parties transact in a stock continually with one another. That is a wash trade for all our viewers to understand this better. Also, SEBI has said that, the committee has said suspicious trading has been observed on part of 6 entities. These are 4 FPIs, not, from among the 12 FPIs that were suspected in relation to minimum public shareholding, 1 corporate body and 1 individual. These are 4 FPIs that have been perhaps observed as part of the 6 entities that have been linked with the transactions that are suspicious, but nothing conclusive has been found. Your own first thoughts?
Yes, actually, it's an interim report by the expert committee. We need to wait for the final report also. It's a preliminary observation and it's a 173 pages report. So we need to further drill down the data, but as your colleague Anisha mentioned, the key highlights of the point, the prima facie, there are no major deviations. There are no any kind of key observations made by the expert committee till now by the regulator. Of course, regulator might be looking into at various angles, and the regulator will be doing their work in a silent way. And 2 areas investors need to take into consideration. One is the preliminary report, what is submitted to the court today, where they have not found any major any kind of deviations till now. And second thing, also one need to consider the statement given by the finance minister of Mauritius in the parliament on record. There were no any kind of shell companies in the from the Adani group. It was on record that has been stated in the parliament. So
yeah, exactly. I'm glad that you pointed this out, Mr. Batini, because, then this would be the second instance where we are getting some positive comments, perhaps when you talk about the Adani groups. One was the Mauritius statements, from the government over there, which did talk about that there are no shell companies of Adani group operating here, as was alleged by the Hindenburg report. And now these findings which say that there is no clear instance where violations of prices has been taken place, and which is why we are seeing the reaction. Now we look at all the Adani group stocks. Adani Enterprises up by 2.5%, ACC Ambuja up by 0.8% each. Most of these stocks have reacted positively after finding out these reports as well. Let's also talk about Adani Power, Adani Port, Adani Transmission and Total Gas. I believe those are the only two stocks that are down in the red. But barring that, apart from that, all of the other stocks have actually shot up. Adani Ports, for example, is up by 2% as well. Let's look at power as well. And let's look at some of the other stocks like ports also. 2% up for Adani Ports, and Adani Power is up by 3.5% today. So, does this mean Adani Green also up by 3% odd as well? Most of the Adani groups have stocks have shot up. What do you really make of the kind of investments investors' approach now should be on the Adani Group stocks after the findings of this report?
Yeah, these are the initial preliminary reports actually, which are giving the confidence to the investors. Of course, the investments made by GQG Capital also given some kind of institutional confidence also for the investors. That is the reason we have witnessed from the bottom, the stock have been rallied. And also the recent results by Adani Enterprises also decent set of results. So over the course of the period, investors need to look forward for the final report that's going to be submitted in the month of July, and also going ahead, how the growth path of the company is going to be. These are the preliminary things investors need to look into that. But
Right.
The stocks have been coming out of the clouds right now, the dark clouds that have been covering the stock all these days. So we can see some kind of investor confidence getting regained over a period of time as and when the final report comes clear and in favor of Adani Group entities are concerned.
Right. The Adani Total Gas, that's the only stock that is actually down in the red. Is there some individual stock related issues that the company is facing at this point in time? It's down by 5%, lower circuit at this point in time, apart from all the other stocks that are actually up in trade. So would you advise that, this is the stock when one should be wary of, even if investing in the Adani Group stocks?
One need to be, it's very stock specific, Sakshi. One need to be looking at the individual companies and the future course of action for these companies, and also the valuations and the order book. All these set of parameters one need to consider while taking any investment decision at this point of time. As I mentioned, okay, there are a couple of points that are in favor of Adani Group right now that has come surfaced in last fortnight. And also this is the interim order. We need to wait for the final order, how it's going to be. Till now, the investors who can take the risk, who have the high risk appetite, uh, they can take their position selecting individual companies. I don't want to
Okay.
comment on any specific company. It's all investor decision, because we need to see the preliminary report also, because it's a 173 pages report. We need to drill down the report further.
Right. But would you say that, the findings of the report do suggest it's perhaps like a clean sheet to the regulator, the capital markets regulator, SEBI, because the report findings again do say that, there are no, I mean, one cannot conclude that there have been any regulatory issues as far as the market regulator is concerned, because that was another issue that was raised in the Supreme Court as well by the petitioners. And even now in the comments, just like how Anisha pointed out, that the committee has noted that several times the regulations have been changed. Now, what is not sure at this point in time is whether the companies really went around the regulation to do any mischievous transactions right there, or did they only follow the regulations at this point in time. But however, as the capital markets regulator is concerned, one has concluded perhaps from the current interim report that the violations are not there as far as the regulations are concerned. Your own sense?
Sakshi, India is one of the best regulated market across the globe, and we have a very strong regulator, and the systems and processes are in place. And the regulators does their work in a silent way, and they keep on tracking the market and conditions of the markets and update on the market. And India have the one of the best regulator, and I'm sure the current expert committee also will give their best and clear work done by the regulator going ahead.
Right. Well, okay. As far as the next, things are concerned, what comes next and what should be the strategy of investors going forward from here? Should one wait till July 11 and then August 14 to really look forward to what really comes out before taking positions right here and not really jump the bandwagon at this point in time?
Investors who have a high risk appetite, actually,
Hmm.
the the group companies which have good earning visibility and also the future prospects and valuations where it looks very attractive. Investors in a staggered manner, they can take some positions at dips and going ahead, we need to see what is the final committee report. Once the final committee report comes, okay, there will be a clear uh, path for the for the corporate governance and clear path for the investment going ahead, and
Right.
some kind of strength and confidence is company is getting regained. They're rising the capital, and till date the company never defaulted any of their payments. They have been
Yes.
prepaying, and they are in line with their payment structures are concerned. Uh, of course, Hindenburg report has damaged the investor confidence, and we have witnessed $145 billion of wealth erosion in the group entities. So coming back from this kind of damage, coming back on its feet on a overnight, we cannot expect. It's a gradual process. That's the reason when the damage happens, it happens very quickly, but recovery path, the prognosis will take time. So right now, this is the all these reports and all this commentary is coming in favor of the group entities. Uh, uh, we need to wait for the final outcome of the report. That's where the investors can take their complete concrete positions.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Batini, for being with us and helping all our viewers really understand what to make of the interim committee report's findings, what it means for the Adani Group, the investors who currently have the positions, and those who want to now take fresh positions in the Adani Group stocks on the basis of the findings. Clearly, there are a lot of uncertainties even at this stage, despite the findings of the report, and much more clarity will emerge in the days to follow as well. And it will be important to see what Supreme Court makes as an observation on the findings of this report on July 11th as well. Meanwhile, we'll continue to focus on the world of business and stock markets. So do stay tuned on to Business Today TV for all of that.
A grand constitutional hall to showcase India's democratic heritage. A library and a lounge for members of parliament. Multiple committee rooms, dining areas and ample parking space. Equipped with state-of-art facilities which will help the MPs to perform their duties in an efficient way. The new 4-story Parliament building, which